Hi everyone. I want to make a book recommendation to all of you. I want to mention briefly about this awesome book. It's called The Alchemy of Happiness by Sheikh Imam Al-Ghazali. We all know who Imam Al-Ghazali was, and indeed his works, his knowledge, his teachings, we have to say that indeed are of great value, not only within the Muslim world, but also in the world of academy, in the academia, but also in philosophers. Study the works of Al-Ghazali, historians. Therefore, I just bought this book recently, and I have to say that I really love it. I just read it, and I'm reading this book for a second time now, and probably I will read it a couple of times until maybe I memorize it. And I have to say that The Alchemy of Happiness by Al-Ghazali is an excellent book. Probably we have to say that, this book is actually a recompilation of 8 chapters that came from an abridged edition of his great work, The Revival of the Religious Sciences. It was written in Arabic, but then he wrote an abridged version of it in Persian, and from the Persian version 8 chapters were taken from it, and from those 8 chapters came this book that we have right here. And I will mention briefly some of the topics that the book deals with. For example, it deals with the knowledge of the self, knowing yourself. What is the meaning of all of this? Because for Al-Ghazali, he says that in order to attain perfection as a human being, as a believer, you must follow certain steps, and he will delineate, he will explain these paths that if you apply this knowledge in your life, you will be able to perfect yourself as a human being, as a better human being, and as a better believer. And he deals with different topics. We have 8 topics right here. The first one is the self-knowledge. You have to know yourself, the knowledge of the self. Second is the knowledge of God. What is the meaning of God, of the knowledge of God? How do we know God? How do we know Allah? The third topic is the knowledge of the world. Fourth, the knowledge of the next world. We have also a topic concerning music and dancing, and the significant or aids to in religious life. Is music haram? Is good? Is bad? What about Sufism? Sufis apply the music in worship also, and to attain certain level of communion, of union with the divine. So Al-Ghazali deals with these kind of topics also here. We have another topic regarding the self-examination and the recollection of God. What is the meaning of this? How can we self-examine ourselves in our lives and find out what are we lacking? How can we improve as human beings? Also, he deals with the topic of marriage as help, in this case, to the religious life. He deals with these topics: when to get married, when not to get married, how to treat your wife, how the wife is supposed to treat the husband, and all the topics related to marriage. And he deals also, the last chapter deals with the love of God. How can we attain such level of perfection of love God? It's easy to say, oh, I love God. Really? How do you know? How can you prove that you really love God? Do you really know God? Do you really know what love is? Al-Ghazali in this chapter explains what love is. And I have to say that I really love this book. This book was, we all know that it was written a long time ago. I have to say that Al-Ghazali lived at the end of the 12th, beginning of the 13th century. But even up to this day, we have to say that this knowledge, his teachings, are still very important, studied. Indeed, as I mentioned, they call him the proof of Islam. And the great thinkers have said that if all the books of Islam, of course with the exception of the Quran and Hadith, but if all the books of Islam were lost and only his book, the Ihya, was saved, then we could say that we haven't lost anything. So we can see from these the great appreciation that Imam Al-Ghazali has within the Islamic world and the world of academia in general, because like I said, his works are studied by the great thinkers and philosophers all over the world. You can get this book from Amazon. It's not expensive. If I'm not wrong, I think I got it for $20-something. So it's not that expensive, but it's worth it. So I really recommend this book to you, The Alchemy of Happiness from Imam Al-Ghazali. 8 chapters from his abridged translation into Persian of his great work Ihya, the revival of the religious sciences. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll see you in the next video. So we'll continue with more topics related to the history of Islam, but also to the history of the great monotheistic religions such as Judaism, Christianity, and of course Islamic topics. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll see you in the next video.